Welcome to Small Biz Flash, your briefing on small business news, trends, and insights. I'm your host, Adam Hewitt. Thanks for joining me. Small Business Administration loans, or SBA loans, play a critical role in financing many small companies. Today, we'll talk with an expert about the kinds of SBA loans available and basic eligibility requirements. That's coming up right after the news roundup. All right, let's dive in. Despite numerous ongoing concerns, a majority of small business owners are reporting increased revenue in 2022 from 2021 and are generally bullish about their growth in the next year, according to the newly released Bank of America 2023 Small Business Owner Report. Inflation continues to cause angst, say 79% of owners polled. 72% list a possible recession as causing them heartburn, while 68% are nervous about commodity prices and the U.S. political environment. Nearly as many, 67%, cite rising interest rates as a concern. Still, 65% of business owners anticipate that revenue will grow in the next 12 months. There's a lot more data in the report, which we'll break down in future episodes. Small business owners are stressed out about money, according to new research released by Lincoln Financial Group. 62% of owners say that finances are a major factor or the biggest source of their stress, versus 47% of those who do not own their own business. Broken down into more granular concerns, 65% of owners worry about having enough stashed away to retire, versus only 48% of their non-owner counterparts. The biggest difference between the two groups is over the impact taxes may have on their retirement savings and investments. 56% of owners are concerned here, while only 38% of non-owners are. Apple has launched a new small business website to mark National Small Business Week, which is this week. According to reporting from Computer World, the site is part of Apple's ongoing effort to move into the small and medium-sized business market. The site features case studies showing how Apple products such as the iPhone and iPad can help small businesses succeed. There's also a link there to list your business in the Apple Maps app. You can find more information on this and other stories in the news roundup by going to the links in the show notes. Small business owners, your finances are the cornerstone of your business. You need the bookkeeping pros at SBS Accounting and Advisors to keep your AP, AR, and financial statements on track. For 16 years, the good folks at SBS have been helping owners like you make better decisions and grow their profits. So go to sbsaccountants.com today to set up a free 30-minute consultation. Use the promo code FLASH to get 20% off your setup fee. Again, that's sbsaccountants.com. Today on the podcast, we have with us Laurence Leopold. Laurence is an SBA lender with Byline Bank, and he's based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We're excited to have Laurence with us. He is a real expert in this topic. Laurence has had over $50 million in approved SBA and USDA loans nationwide within the last 2 years. He has been in the banking industry for over 20 years, and he actually worked at the Small Business Administration as an attorney prior to entering the commercial lending space. So he has got a wealth of knowledge, and we're super excited to have him as a guest. So Laurence, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Adam, thanks for that introduction. As you mentioned, yes, I've been doing SBA lending in some way, shape, or form for, the last 28 years, since 1995. I joined the SBA in Dallas, Texas as an attorney, actually in the disaster program. I was in the disaster side for about 5 years. Everyone knows the disaster program through the SBA EIDL loan for businesses during COVID. Then in 2000, I was transferred here to Atlanta to the Georgia District Office, which supports banks in their SBA lending division. I was there for 2 more years. In 2002, I gave up the practice of law, left the SBA, and actually became a regional credit officer for BB&T, which is now known as Truist. Went through their small business underwriting credit training program, was a credit officer for a couple of years underwriting SBA loans. And then in about 2004, I decided to make the move to the production side, became a business development officer. And since then, I've been producing SBA loans, including during about a 6-year period where I actually ran and built SBA lending departments for a couple different banks, and built one of those to become a top 50 SBA lender in the country. And here I am today at Byline Bank doing the same thing, trying to help small business owners get SBA loans.
Well, again, Laurence, your wealth of knowledge is super important, especially right now in the environment that we're in, right, where there's all kinds of headlines about the credit crunch that small businesses particularly are under with the collapse of the banks in March, and another bank about to be taken over. And we just, the macro environment that we're in right now for a number of reasons is very tough, and small business owners are very concerned. So let's just start with the basics because there's so much to unpack here. So I know that the main two programs, right, that the SBA has as far as loans go are 7A versus 504. So could you just briefly explain the differences between those two for all the business owners and managers out there that are listening that maybe just really don't have any idea how all this works? They just know that at some point maybe they are going to need access to capital in some shape or form or fashion. So maybe just explain that to us.
Sure. In our time allotted for this, there's a lot more to it. But very basically, when someone hears, oh, I got an SBA loan, more likely than not, they're referring to what is the SBA 7A loan program. That is a bank loan, a conventional commercial bank loan that has additional support by way of an SBA guarantee directly from the federal government, usually a 75% guarantee to the bank. It is not insurance in the case of default or anything like that. It is truly a guarantee to induce the bank to make a loan that it might not otherwise make based on its loan policy. The other loan program that SBA administers is the SBA 504 program, and that's primarily for commercial real estate and large fixed machinery and equipment type acquisitions. The SBA 7A program tends to be for your like business acquisitions, things that are collateral light, whereas the SBA 504 is heavy on collateral, and it actually involves two loans, a bank loan in a first lien position, and then the SBA through what's called a certified development company in a second lien position, and then borrower equity. Those are the two loan programs in a very brief nutshell.
Right. And because of the fact that we're doing a short podcast, obviously there's a lot more we could unpack, but we're going to try to keep it short. And also what folks may have kind of figured out, even just in this amount of time we've already talked, is that SBA loans do not come directly from the government, that they are, or you work through a private lender, and the loans are backed up by, or at least partially backed up by the federal government, correct?
That is correct. They are not an SBA direct loan, except in that SBA 504 program. Again, when most people think of an SBA loan, they're referring to a 7A loan, which is actually made by a bank.
Okay. And I guess while we're shoring up some misconceptions out there, another potential misconception that folks may have is that SBA loans are only available if you've been denied what we maybe would call a conventional loan already. And that's also not the case.
Again, because I've been doing this 28 plus years, that was actually the way the program kind of evolved. You used to have to get a denial from another bank to be able to come in and say, hey, I was denied credit here. And that's one of the components of SBA lending to be eligible, is you have to show that you don't have credit available elsewhere. These days, basically, you go apply to a bank, you speak with a knowledgeable SBA lender, business development officer, and you're going to tell them what you're looking for. That SBA lender should know, okay, this does not fit the bank's normal credit box, so to speak, but you should be eligible under an SBA program, and that's the route we're going to go. And then the bank just documents in its credit memo, its underwriting, that the customer would not have been eligible for a conventional loan under that particular bank's commercial lending policy. Therefore, the bank is taking it with an SBA guarantee.
Got it. So that makes sense. So talk to us about those basic eligibility requirements to get an SBA loan then.
So basically, there's about a half dozen very basic eligibility requirements that the SBA has. For the most part, number one, you have to be for profit. Nonprofits are not eligible. You also have to be it does have to be an owner-occupied type business. It's not to be used for passive type investments where you're just obtaining rental income. The borrowers must either be U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. Finally, the borrower, they have to be technically defined as small. SBA follows certain NAICS codes based on number of employees or annual revenue. And 95% of the businesses in the United States are technically small businesses when you look at either number of employees or revenue size.
All right, we're going to stop the interview right there for now for the sake of time, and next week we'll pick back up and talk more about the ins and outs of SBA loans. Thanks for listening to Small Biz Flash. I'm your host, Adam Hewitt. If you enjoy the show, please tell someone about the podcast, and a comment on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube would be great as well. I sure do appreciate it, and I'll see you next week.